You have been told a story about language. It goes something like this. In the beginning, humans communicated through grunts and gestures. Over thousands of years, these grew more complex until words emerged, then sentences, then grammar. Language evolved slowly, almost accidentally, from something primitive into the sophisticated system you are using right now to understand these words. Every part of that story is wrong. Language did not emerge gradually from primitive sounds. The evidence now points to something far stranger, far more sudden, and with implications that reach into every corner of what it means to be human. And once you see how language actually appeared, you will never hear a conversation the same way again. Let us start with what most people get backwards. For most of the 20th century, scientists believed that language was primarily a tool for sharing information. You point at the mammoth, you warn about the fire, you coordinate the hunt. A practical technology, refined over time. The problem with this theory is that it cannot explain what language actually is today, and what it was long before it became practical. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent years studying the social behavior of primates and came to a startling conclusion. Modern humans spend about 60 to 65% of their conversation time talking about people. Not abstract ideas, not plans, not facts. People. Who did what to whom, what someone said, how a particular person behaved, what is happening in other people's lives. We call this gossip, usually with contempt. But Dunbar argued it was the entire point. Language, he proposed, did not evolve to coordinate hunts. It evolved as a form of social grooming. In primate groups, physical grooming, picking through each other's fur, is the primary way individuals build trust, maintain alliances, and manage the social bonds that keep the group functioning. But grooming is expensive. You can only groom one animal at a time. As group sizes grew, the time budget required for maintaining all those individual bonds through touch became impossible to sustain. Language solved this. You can talk to 3 people simultaneously. You can strengthen a social bond from across a campfire. You can maintain a relationship with someone you have not seen in weeks just by speaking to people who know them. Language, in this view, is not a communication technology. It is a social technology, a way of managing the web of relationships that holds a group together. This is why storytelling is universal. Every human culture that has ever been studied tells stories. Not because stories are an efficient way to transmit information, but because stories are the mechanism through which social knowledge spreads. Who is trustworthy? Who is dangerous? How the world works, and what happens to people who behave in particular ways. Before writing existed, before recording technology, before any system for preserving information across time, stories were the library. A culture could lose its tools, its land, its buildings. As long as the stories survived, the essential knowledge of how to live in that society survived with them. The evidence for how ancient this is reaches far back. Archaeologists working at sites in southern Africa found ochre fragments with deliberate geometric patterns dating back roughly 75,000 years. Similar symbolic artifacts, shell beads, carved bones, pigment-stained surfaces, appear at sites across Africa, Europe, and Asia within a relatively short window of time. This is called the Upper Paleolithic Revolution, and its most striking feature is not the art itself. It is the suddenness. For hundreds of thousands of years, human artifacts were functional, rocks shaped into cutting edges, nothing more. Then, within what is geologically almost no time at all, symbolic thinking explodes everywhere. Something changed in the human brain around this period. The leading theory is that it was language, not the emergence of vocal communication, which had existed in earlier hominids, but the emergence of full recursive syntax. The ability to embed one thought inside another, to speak not just about the world, but about ideas about the world. The sentence, "I believe you think he knows what she did," requires 4 nested layers of mental representation. No other species can track this kind of structure. Even chimpanzees, who can learn hundreds of signs and symbols, cannot combine them recursively. They cannot tell you what they think you think. Only humans can. And this capacity, once it appeared, changed everything almost overnight in evolutionary terms. Language with full syntax meant you could talk about things that were not present. You could describe the past. You could plan the future. You could discuss hypothetical situations, imagine alternatives, share fears about things that had not happened yet. You could lie. You could tell stories about people who did not exist. This last point is more important than it sounds. The historian Yuval Noah Harari has argued that the ability to share fictional narratives is what separates Homo sapiens from every other species that ever existed. Not intelligence, not tools, not social cooperation, the ability to believe in things that are not physically real. A chimpanzee will not die for a concept. A human will. Humans can organize themselves around shared beliefs about gods, nations, laws, money, human rights, corporate entities, none of which have any physical reality. They are stories that enough people agree to treat as real. And the capacity to construct, share, and believe these stories at scale is the engine behind every institution, every civilization, every large-scale human achievement in history. Money is a story. A nation is a story. A company is a story. A religion is a story. None of these things have physical substance. They exist entirely because enough minds hold them simultaneously. And all of this runs on language. Think about what this means for the words you use every day. Every conversation you have is doing more than exchanging information. It is maintaining social bonds, establishing trust, negotiating status, shaping shared reality, participating in the oldest and most powerful technology your species ever developed. When you complain about your day to a friend, you are not just venting. You are reaffirming the social fabric between you. When a leader tells a story, they are not just communicating a fact. They are inviting people into a shared version of reality. When a culture passes down its myths and histories, it is not simply preserving the past. It is encoding the values and social contracts that hold the group together across time. Language evolved to hold groups of people together in a web of shared understanding. Everything else, the practical functions, the coordination, the information transfer, was secondary. The primary function was, and still is, keeping us together. That 60% of conversation time you spend talking about people, that is not a waste. That is the operating system running underneath everything else. Every word you say is part of the oldest technology your species ever built. Use it accordingly.